Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to Series 6 of Working Hours, an oral history podcast about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. Working Hours aims to record 200 loiners, that's people from Leeds, over the first half of the most important decade in the history of the human species, and ask them about what they do all day and hear how they feel about it. My name is Simon, and this is all my fault. My mission here is to try to map out what my city, Leeds, a city that has declared a climate emergency, did during humanity's biggest emergency. On Working Hours, we hear how loiners have, are, and will be coping with our multiple and expanding crises during their day-to-day working hours. To tell this story, I need loiners like you, dear listener. I need people in Leeds or people from Leeds to come on this podcast and tell me about what they do all day and let me record how this decade affects us. Thank you for listening to this episode. What did you want to be when you grew up?
So from being 7 years old, I actually wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
And to the point where at 11 years old, I've got a sister that's 4 years younger than me, I used to come home and teach her. We used to play teachers, so I could teach her everything that I'd learned at school. She's now a very, very highly thought of radiographer, and I think she's a lecturer or something at Bradford University. And I'm going to take some credit for that because I think that's part of my teaching skills.
Yeah.
She was definitely very good at algebra, which was definitely because I taught her that. But yeah, so I'm going to take a little bit of credit for it, although I don't like her to get too big-headed. And when she goes on about being, a radiographer, I go, sweetheart, you're still just a photographer, it's just a bones. But yeah, always wanted to be a teacher. Went through uni, did a degree in French and media, then did my PGCE, became a secondary school teacher, taught French and German, absolutely loved it, didn't like the other teachers, and I felt like an overpaid babysitter. I ended up rage quitting because I had a kid in year 7 that had got some stuff going on at home. I'm very much a caring person. I have a huge got to save the world problem. And because nobody was listening to me and fixing what I knew I could fix with this kid, just by getting him to go and speak to the school counsellor, I left and it wasn't for me. And then my dad was so confident that I would go back to teaching because it's what I'd always wanted to do, that on my marriage certificate, he was my, I don't know what they're called, but he was my scribe. He actually wrote teacher on my marriage certificate, and he said to me, you'll go back to it. I was like, I absolutely will not. And then now, I said to my best friend, keep your mouth shut, because she said to me, as a business coach, pretty much, you have kind of gone back to teaching. And I said, if you say that in front of my father, this friendship is over. Don't let him win, because I don't want him to quote that back at me. But yeah, teacher, that's what I always wanted to be.
You're listening to Series 6, Episode 23, and to my guest, Kirsty Elton. This is another in-person recorded back at the Santander Work Cafe, and yes, they should be giving me some money for this, but they don't. To be fair, I haven't asked. Recorded on the 22nd of June, 2025. Hello, colleagues. In this engaging episode, join Kirsty Elton as she shares her unique journey from aspiring teacher to Viking-inspired business coach. Kirsty opens up about her early dreams, her experiences in healthcare recruitment, and the pivotal moments that led her to where she is today. She dives into the challenges of her MS diagnosis, her perspectives on social media, and her passion for making a lasting impact through her work and her recently published book. Discover the wisdom behind her leadership style, her thoughts on work-life balance, and what drives her to keep pushing forward. How good was the last episode? Well, the bangers keep on coming. Get ready for this one. Are you ready? Well, ready or not, here we go. Right, let's do this. Episode 178 of Working Hours with Kirsty Elton.
So, you've answered the subsequent questions that I was going to ask in terms of what happened. So we'll jump straight into the next question. So what is it that you're doing now?
So now I am a Viking-inspired business coach.
Okay.
Which sounds really random because that's who I am. One of my clients coined the term for me and said, I'm not bossy, I'm just aggressively helpful. I am very, very passionate about what I do. I am a business coach for small businesses, so I kind of work with either new startups or people that have got an idea about a business, and I take them right through the early stages to make sure they get the foundations right. Having worked 20 years in healthcare recruitment, I've kind of been there and done it in terms of like being a financial director, operations, HR. I've got qualifications in all of those. Obviously ADHD brain, love learning. And then I've put all of that together, and then I go out and I look for the people that are amazing at what they do. So whether that's, like working in IT, whether it is, doing forest bathing, they love what they do and they're really passionate about it. But business is a different skill set. So I can then lend my skill set to there and then make sure that I can help them build the foundation to a really successful business. So whether they want to or not. So it's lovely. And I say to people, I'm kind of like, there's loads of business coaches about, and I always say to people, it's like trying on a pair of shoes. You've got to find out who's the right fit for you. And I'm not for everybody. I am a massive personality. I am, I come across as being quite harsh. I'm actually a massive softie. So I will handhold, I will give people that nurturing. I'm a huge cheerleader. I like to motivate people and give them back their confidence, because I think I can't fix a business if I don't fix the business owner first.
Yeah.
So get them confident and happy,
Well,
and
what
then
is
they
a
can do
business
anything.
other than a legal entity? The reality of it's not the buildings, it's not the office furniture, it's not the photocopier, it's the people.
100%. Yeah. It really, really is. So I have to fix them first and get them to where they need to be so that they can then run their business. But yeah, no, I absolutely love it. I really enjoy it. And it's nice because rather than just being employed by one company and dealing with the same stuff all the time, I've got different things going on with different businesses. So one company might need help on, like AI and a little bit of CRM stuff, and I'll jump in and do that. I'm a massive nerd. Then another client might need help with cash flow forecasting, finance, looking at the accounts, a little jump onto Zero. I can do that for them. Then I'll have another one that's purely kind of sales and marketing. So I might be looking at like their socials and going, right, this is what we need to be doing. It's just so varied.
Yeah.
And like I work with such amazing people, and that's probably what I love most, is I get to choose who I work with. So I'll go out and find the nice people. And then if I do get people that come to me and I'm a bit like, I'm not sure that you're right for me, because I don't think, one, I like the business that you're doing, or I don't like the values that you have. And that's usually people that are all about money. So they just want to make a load of money as quickly as possible. They're not about customer service. They're not about looking after their clients.
Ego, isn't it?
Yeah, I hate it.
It's well, this business is me, and it's about me, and it's about making me look good and making me rich.
Yeah. That's not for me. I think it should all be about doing a good job.
But it doesn't work either, I don't think. It's like, especially with the business, it's like you need it to be a thing. Like, not just a make me money thing. Like, it needs a purpose. It needs a goal. It needs a reason to be. Why is this phone still making noise? So, before I go into how you got into it, I want to look at, so you come from, so you did teaching and then you've got into healthcare. So.
Oh no, I did loads of stuff in between.
Well, okay, so I was going to say, like, that changed from public sector into private sector. Like, how do the skills relate and how do they come across? Or did you already, so you've already been in the private sector and had that kind of, because the discipline's different. I was at a thing the other week and someone, it was their first time working in the public sector and they were like, I just don't understand how there's no deadlines. Like, there'll be a deadline and then all the other people won't do their work, or, like higher up people won't do their work, and then the deadline will extend. And then you're like, well, what are we doing? I was like, yeah, you'll get used to it.
So I actually started working when I was 13. I asked for my national insurance number early because I wanted to go volunteer in Oxfam, so that by the time I could start earning a wage, I would already have like a year or so's experience of working in retail. Loved it, really enjoyed working there. Then I started working in like random, I think I worked in like a food court, which was horrible and I hated it. And then always worked in retail. So I worked in loads and loads of different shops. My favourite was probably Clark's shoes. Loved that. I used to fit kids' shoes and it was just brilliant. And obviously that fed in quite nicely to the fact that I wanted to be a teacher, although I was a secondary school teacher. But even when I was teaching, I did do placements in like comprehensive schools, but I actually worked in a private school. So I still had like those deadlines. It was still about, you know, making money. It was still a business.
Yeah.
And then I think because I've got my dad's business acumen. My dad has worked his entire life in the building sector.
Yeah.
So he ran a really successful building business. Obviously had like 200 staff, I think, at one point. Then he went into property development. And I've sat and listened to my dad's stories all about how to manage staff, about servant leadership, about, you know, time management. And so you sit and you listen to that and you go, yeah, when I grow up, that's what I'm going to be like. So I always had that in the back of my mind that I just wanted to be successful. And you can't fight that. I think it's just, sometimes it's just there. You've had it ingrained in you from being young.
So just going back to the teaching then, because I'm assuming we would have that same sort of drive back then and the same sort of, you know, goal orientation. What was the goal from the teaching perspective? Like, what would have been the high point, the pinnacle? Was it to get to be head and run a really successful, good school, or what was the...
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever really thought about it like that. I don't think I'd kind of sat... I mean, I've always been really ambitious, but I don't think at any point I'd kind of sat there and gone, this is my goal, and within 10 years I want to be a head teacher. I think that's probably what I would have done, because that's who I am. But I'd never actually had that thought. It was just, I loved kids. I still love kids. And because I'd had like the privilege of going to private school when I was younger, and my teachers had had such a massive impact on like my confidence and, you know, like my personality. So I went to Fullneck in Pudsey, which I'm actually really, really upset is closing down. But that did wonders for me. You know, like I only went there from being 13. So I did 2 years in a comprehensive school first, then I went there. And my French teacher had turned around and said, you know what, you've got a natural like bend for languages, you're really good at them. I'm going to make sure that I coach you through this school.
Yeah.
And she was fantastic. And I was like, I want to be that.
Yeah.
I want to be that for somebody else, you know, and kind of bring out the best in people and, you know, and that were all I wanted. But I've been like this whole got to help everybody out since I was little. And to be fair, I'm not doing anything much different now, am I? You know, literally, regardless of what job I'm doing, I just find somebody to help. And then that's what my reward is. That's what motivates me to enjoy my job.
So we've kind of, well, I'll ask the question, even though we kind of covered some of it. So how did you get into this? How did you get into doing what you're doing now?
So over the 20 years in healthcare recruitment, and it was getting to a point where recruitment, in my opinion, has become really heavily saturated. So you get a lot of people that will just go, I'm going to set up a recruitment agency because it's easy money, and it's not. So back in the day, like 2004, you know, yes, 100%, we were making a lot of money, and it was fairly easy. But then it kind of got to a point where you could see that, you know, you were seen as like sharky salespeople. You'd phone around, like even in healthcare, you'd be phoning around care homes or hospitals and like, oh, well, we've got loads of recruitment agencies that are ringing us. So I saw that shift. And then the last company I was working for, I was involved with 4 recruitment agencies that were all different sectors, and then a complex care agency. And it was just, I think I'd gotten to the point where I was like, I feel like I've lost the passion for it.
Yeah.
And then there were a few kind of, you know, like not to go into loads of details, but I didn't agree with how the company was being run. It's not how I would have run it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, do you know what? No, I'm done. And then it's a really nice story, but there is a guy that I have known for 20 years, and he's offered me a job multiple times, and I've always said no. And then I phoned him and said, look, you know, this is my situation that I'm in at the moment. I know you've offered me a job before. I feel embarrassed for coming back to you and saying, actually, yeah, I'll take that now. I've changed my mind. I was like, but, you know, obviously you own multiple businesses. Is there any chance that you would have a job for me? And he was like, you know, Kirsty, I could give you any job in any of my businesses, and I think you do a brilliant job. He went, but I think in 2 years' time, potentially, we'd be sat having this conversation again.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be being run the way you want it, because it's not your business.
Yeah.
I said, if we're going to work together, I'd rather help you set up your own business. And I'm like, what would I do?
Yeah.
Like, all I know is recruitment. That's all I've done for 20 years. And he was like, no, Kirsty, you've been a troubleshooter. You've been going into all of these different businesses and fixing their problems. He was like, and then what you do is if there's a finance problem, you go do a degree in finance and accountancy and then you take over. It was like, or you notice that you don't have a HR manager and no one understands about disciplinaries. So you went and did your CIPD. It was like, you've learned all of these things. He was like, be a business coach. And then I was like, oh no, I don't think I can do that. And then I went away and had a think about it. And then it was my best friend actually that I was like, oh God, do you think I can do this? And she was like, yeah, 100%, go for it. So I did. And I'm glad that I did. It was scary. Like obviously because you're paying yourself your own wages out of what you're earning. So it's like, right, I need to really crack on and build this business. But I'm proud to say I was cost neutral within 4 months. I did take 2 of the girls with me from the company that we were at before. And then sadly, one of the girls I think was not enjoying it all that much. Or I don't know. No, I don't think it was that she wasn't enjoying it. I think she prefers like putting all of her emotion and, like dedication into one client. So she's working directly with one of our clients now. And I'm so proud of what she's done with them. And then my best friend who was working with me, I was kind of feeling pressure to bring in business that I wouldn't necessarily want, but just to make sure I could pay everybody's wages. And I think there was a little bit of guilt on her part and on my part of us kind of going, this is really, really hard. And obviously I've got MS, so I was working like 80 hours a week. And then I wasn't paying myself because I wanted to make sure that she was getting paid properly. And then it was just like, God, you know what, this is just too much. So we sat and had a really frank chat and she was like, look, I said, I just don't think I can afford to keep paying you. So she's now gone and I'm on my own. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be so lonely. And then my clients have been amazing. All the people at Net Worth have been amazing. Like if you get lonely, if you want somebody to come in and sit and talk to you or keep you company, I'm here for you. So yeah, I think you learn along the way. I always say to people, your business is like a child. So when you're first having that child or you're setting up your business, you have an idea in your mind of what that business is going to grow like. In the same way as you might have a child and go, my child is going to be a doctor, or he's going to be a heart surgeon, or she's going to be a nurse, or whatever. Like you have these plans, don't you, in your head, even though every parent says they haven't, they do. So you've got like these ideas of what you want your child to be or what you want your business to do. But it kind of organically changes into something else. And life, yeah. So you have to kind of keep reevaluating. And obviously, initially, I'd done this so that we all had something to do and we were all still getting a wage. But it might not necessarily have been the right plan for all of us because it was my idea, not necessarily what they both would have chosen to do. Yeah. So I felt a little bit guilty for that, and I still do, to be fair. But in my head, I just wanted to make sure that they had money coming in and that they were happy. Yeah. And I didn't like how they were being managed by other people in the past. So I was like, I know that I love them and I'll look after them. Yeah. But then selfishly, I wanted them at my side because they're my girls. Yeah. And then it was my husband that had said to me, I appreciate that that's what you're thinking. He was like, but to an extent, you're holding them back from being their own people because they're being loyal to you and doing what you're asking of them, but you're not letting them grow. And I was like, that's an awful way to put it. So yeah, that was a bit sad. But no, so I'm like, now I'm at a point where I'm only working with clients that I actually thoroughly enjoy working with. I am kind of growing the business a little bit, so I can afford to kind of time-wise take on maybe another few clients. But I don't want to overcommit. Yeah. But now I've finished the book, then I've got a little bit more time. Yeah. I also run I'm involved in a couple of rugby clubs, and then I also have a networking group that I do on a Tuesday. Yeah. So I don't want to take on too much and then end up tired. Okay, so that does happen.
So you mentioned the MS in passing there. I think we'll probably cover more of that in this section. So I'm going to ask about COVID now. So when did you get that diagnosis for MS?
So 2008. So I've had it 17 years now. COVID was actually a really, really challenging time for me, for like both personally and professionally. So at the time I was actually running a recruitment. I was a business partner of a recruitment and palliative care company. So as awful as this is going to make me sound now, and I feel terrible and I hope people take this in the right way, but my palliative care clients who were kind of bringing in the majority of the money, if you like, in the revenue into the business, they were all passing away but not from COVID. They were giving up because they couldn't see their friends and family.
Yeah.
So I've then got all these depressed clients that are just kind of passing away. And I turned around to my business partner and I said, we're going to have to completely rethink the business because we've already got some clients that are turning around and saying they're reducing the foot flow in their businesses, so they don't want any agency staff. We've now got the palliative care clients kind of giving up and people are dying left, right and centre. I'm like, we can't afford for the business to go under. So I ended up kind of doing a little bit of cheeky, like sequencing, stroke automation, got out a lovely email out to prospective clients. I called it COVID support, which was a little bit cheeky. And in there I'd put, look, as an immunodeficient person myself, you know, this is a really difficult time for all of us. But I understand that, you know, as a care home or a care provider, your staffing ratios, your CQC staffing ratios are key. So I don't want you guys to end up not having any staff. So we have got lots of staff that are available that are trained up to the hilt because obviously the role that they were doing. And we will personally drive these staff to and from their shifts to minimise exposure. So although everybody else that were probably in my position that was immunocompromised, that was kind of hiding away from COVID, I was in my car driving nurses and carers to care homes up and down West, North and South Yorkshire.
Were you head to foot in hazmat or?
I mean, no.
You're just there like puffing in there.
Yeah, I wore a mask. I did wear gloves for probably about 2 days and then I didn't bother. I used to COVID test all the staff as they were getting in the car. And then I took them for regular COVID testing at like the sites and stuff. And then I had like I don't know what it was like. It was like this air sanitizer that smelled beautiful, but was also supposed to kind of like kill all the germs in your car. So I had that. Oh, fine. I mean, I've had COVID like 5 or 6 times now. But I was just like, I can't. And my poor mum and dad must have been absolutely fretting because they're like, are you making sure you're staying at home? You know, are you making sure that you're avoiding contact with people? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like sat in a car with like 2 nurses and a care assistant. And I'm like, right, I'm going to drop you off and then we're going to go pick up the day staff from the other place.
I think they're just trying to humour themselves. I think they know exactly what you're doing.
Well, I mean, my mum and dad are under no illusions that I do not do as I'm told. And I do like push things to extremes, but I had to, like, the business came first. I was like, I have to make sure that all the money and time we've invested into this business is not in vain. So we just had to rethink it. But yeah, COVID was a really hard time for all of us in healthcare. It was horrible, even just from a mental health perspective. So we had staff that were choosing not to work because they were frightened. And we were doing welfare checks weekly with all of our staff to make sure they were okay. So it's like, if you need to talk, we're here for you. You know, a lot of people, you know, and then they've got family members that are passing away. And you know, you feel
that you couldn't go to the funerals of. That you couldn't see while they were sick and dying. And
my nan passed away during first lockdown, and that was horrible because it just didn't feel real. You know, we went to like the crematorium. We all had to stand like in our households away from each other. I'd taken some flowers and the woman at the crematorium was like, I can put them on the coffin, but once we've taken the coffin away, they won't go in with her, you'll need to take them away. So I ended up giving them to my mum. But it was just, you know, it was uncomfortable. It was just really weird. And even though you're looking at this coffin and I knew that my nan was in there, it didn't feel real because we were still in lockdown. So there wasn't a funeral. There wasn't like a goodbye. It was just really odd.
The whole grieving process is interrupted and you know, it's not there essentially.
No, it was horrible. Honestly, it was absolutely awful. And then I could see people fighting with each other all over social media and I'm like, why are you doing this?
And plus as well, because the industry you're working on, you're next to the front line and like most of us shielded from that. But from various accounts that I've heard from various people, you know, it was, depending where you were, I mean, I know that some places the hospitals were like dead and empty, but in other places it was like a war zone, you know, just like what you're dealing with and the amount of hours and like you're trying to fix things with, you know, whatever you've got to hand and just being overwhelmed. So it's...
But they were experiencing massive staffing shortages because people were frightened and you can't make somebody go to work.
And people were ill.
And then obviously you then have the whole thing of, oh, well, if they've tested positive, they've got to be away for so many days. Or, honestly, it just absolutely, it tested the sector to the limit. It really, really did. And there's a lot of people who left healthcare during COVID that have not returned to it. So it was really, really detrimental to the sector. But I love healthcare. So it was literally, what can we do to help? And it was really, really challenging. But it was also like, I liked the whole sense of community that we saw. So lots of people then were like really helping each other. You'd have people, so we were doing like carpools, so that people had got like bubbles that they, that they were speaking to each other and sharing cars, and that was really nice. So we did have like a real sense of community, and a lot of friendships were formed like during that period, which was nice. But yeah, it was hard. It was really tough.
So coming out, so normally with the COVID question, I ask like, how did it affect your work? And then like going in. So for people, it falls into three categories of like, oh, I didn't do any work anymore. Like my work dropped off, or it stayed the same, or it went crazy. Obviously for you, it went slightly crazy because you're picking up all this slack. Coming out the other side, I mean, for a start, when would you probably place you coming out of COVID? But the other thing I want you to sort of consider is, has anything changed for you permanently after that?
So this is really, really random now, but I had a major fear of going out after COVID. And for somebody that's like very confident, very social, I like to talk a lot.
Very unexpected.
Yeah. But honestly, and like, I'm not even going to lie. So I'd gone over to my friend's house, and we were supposed to be driving down to go see another friend and staying there overnight. I went to her house. She wasn't home yet. So I was sat outside in the car. I've got my overnight bag, everything. And then I just felt sick. And I'm like, I can't.
Like an anxiety.
Yeah. Like really bad anxiety. And I sat there for like 15 minutes, like I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I went home. And then when I got home, my husband was like, I thought you were out tonight. I'm like, I can't do it. I literally can't do it. But I'd got so used to being in the house and not going out, because obviously I was still working from home.
Yeah.
I used to have my friend on WhatsApp video.
And you think you're meeting people. Well, that's it, because you think you're meeting people because you're seeing faces and stuff. And then you go outside and you're like, ooh.
But I'm still like it now. We're years on. And like, people will be like, oh, you're coming out on Friday night? I'm like, no, I think I'll just stay at home and watch Netflix. And it's so sad, because this is not who I ever was. And to an extent, it's kind of a good thing, because I spend more time with my husband and my dog. But then on the other side...
And save money.
And save loads of money, yeah. But then on the other side, I'm a bit like, I used to be, honestly, I'd be like out doing karaoke, I'd be out drinking. And now I'm just like, nah, I'd rather just be at home. So, and that's only from COVID.
Yeah. No, I sympathise. And I don't think most people's social circles have recovered from COVID. I mean, I would be surprised if there were people who didn't, like I think everyone lost people in terms of people that are living as well, of like, oh, I just don't see them anymore, or we're not in contact, or we've fallen out of contact. And I think it's really weird that, like, for me, for example, I've lost contact with people that I was in contact with during COVID. Like some people you stopped being in contact with, but I was in contact with them then, and then coming out, I've kind of lost the contact. So it's like weird to me that it's like, well, why didn't you lose them then, and why?
Yeah.
But it's a very
strange,
odd
isn't
thing.
it?
Yeah.
And I think because all of us were just a bit like, it were a bit unknown.
Yeah.
And it was frightening.
It was at the beginning. It was terrifying,
there was
because nobody knew what the hell was going on.
No.
I just edited one that I did a couple of weeks back, and we were talking about sort of going into the lockdown, and I was saying, do you remember the first sort of few weeks, if you did go outside and you went for a walk or whatever, nobody was, well, it was the first few days or whatever, first week, nobody was making eye contact, nobody was saying anything to each other. And it like took a few days before people started saying online, look, if you're outside, say hello and like wave to people and be human, because everyone's like freaking out. And then it seemed to get a bit, people started to make something of it, because it was like that, oh, well, we'll just wait a few weeks and then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then it was like, how long is this going on for?
Well, I'm not going to lie. The funniest thing about the whole COVID thing was, obviously I was still working until I decided to let all the team like work from home. And we were still going into the office until it was like, right, no, now we need to send everyone to work from home. So obviously I was still going out and driving people to and from work. And we'd only just, so we moved into we live in a little bungalow at the bottom of a cul-de-sac. So we'd only just moved into our house in the February as COVID hit, kind of like March time. So we didn't know the neighbours very, very well, but obviously it's me. So within a week I'm on first name terms with everybody that lived there. And then I was coming home one night from work. I'd like dropped off like the staff and then was just coming back. And when I got back, it's like late afternoon. And all of my neighbours, who are pretty much all over 65, they're all sat on garden chairs at the end of each of their driveways, just sharing a drink together. So as I come down my drive, obviously I can't get into my driveway because of them all being sat there. So I'm like beeping them. And then I was laughing, and when I got out and I was speaking to them, I went, I didn't realise you were all raging alcoholics. I was like, otherwise I might have thought twice about buying this house. But it was literally almost every afternoon, they were all out there keeping each other like busy. We had a lovely guy, he's passed away now, but he could play, was it a trumpet? It was like a trumpet or a trombone or something, or a saxophone, I can't remember. But he'd come out, he was like in his late 80s, and he'd sit and play us some music.
Nice.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
They had such an amazing social life that it got to a point where I was like, actually, I'm gonna enjoy working from home because they're probably all gonna be out.
Yeah.
I made pina coladas one afternoon, took all those out for everybody. It was brilliant. I probably had more of a social life then than I have had after COVID. Where I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna...
Yeah, I feel like I'm more locked down now than I was during lockdown. Like during lockdown, because other people were locked down and there were bubbles, and you could go out for a walk, and you could meet people within that bubble. There was and they had the time to walk, and I was going out and walking fairly regularly. Now I just sit in my room, like avoiding editing, and
it's crazy, isn't it? I also thought it was hilarious that, like people like me who are allergic to exercise, all of a sudden it was like, you're allowed to go out to exercise and go for a walk. And I was like, yes, I'm going to go out and have a walk, just so I can get out of the house. And now I'm like, yeah, no, you can take the dog for a walk. And I'm like, just because somebody had told me, well, you're not allowed to leave the house unless it's for exercise or to go and get provisions. Well, I'm not going food shopping because I hate that. That's my husband's job. I was like, but I will go out and exercise. I'm going to go out and go for a walk around the park. And it's so random, isn't it? Like, I would never have done it, but because it was like you can't leave the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I want to.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can only go out then if you're going out for a walk. Well, I'll go then. Yeah. I'll go for a walk.
ADHD all the way.
Yeah, totally. It's like when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like, hold my handbag. Watch me.
Okay, so let's move on from COVID. Let's do Brexit. So this one, it's odd because I think I know how people are going to answer, but you never know how people are going to answer. So has there been any change for you in your work since we have Brexited? Has there been any noticeable impact from Brexit on your work or how you work?
So on my work now, no. Mm-hmm. On my work when I was in the healthcare sector, yes, absolutely. We saw a huge so I was really sad. I had a lot of nurses that were from the EU that were working on obviously their EU passports, and they were so heartbroken and didn't felt like they were wanted that they left. And that was awful. Some of these nurses I'd known for years and they were like friends. And then to see them feel like the country that they'd worked in, that they'd paid their taxes to, didn't want them, they were just heartbroken. And I felt awful about that. But then came from, that's like just on a personal side, but from that then came these massive shortages across all of the care homes, across the hospitals. We just didn't have the staff because we were losing them hand over fist. And then there were no new staff coming through to replace them. So we were just experiencing huge shortages all over. And I personally think that was the reason, and I could be really wrong, but I think that was one of the reasons why a lot of the NHS and private companies then were so heavily invested in doing certificates of sponsorship to bring over migrant workers from other countries, because it was like, we need more staff. We need more staff. We don't have them here. So now we're going to have to do these certificates of sponsorship and then bring in more people. And I'm like, if we hadn't have had Brexit in the first place, we would not be in this position. But yeah, it's just, I think for me, it's always about the feeling. So for me, it was just really sad that I was speaking to all these people who were like, I've lived in the UK for so long and it feels like home. And now I feel like the country that I've given so much of my time and effort and money to doesn't want me. And so I'm going to go back. And I was like, that's just awful. And I did try and talk so many people. I was like, I'll help you apply for citizenship, I'll help you apply for a visa, you know, anything that I can do to help you, I will do it, but please don't take, this is not a personal thing. You know, I was like, it's not for us to kind of sit and look at whatever the politicians are looking at and where they think, you know, they're going to make loads of money or save loads of money. I was like, I just care about you. So you tell me what it is that you want and need, and then let's see how we navigate that. But yeah, no, I found that really, really sad. I mean, obviously there's the other side to it of, you know, it being more difficult to kind of travel to Europe, or my mum and dad moaning about how expensive it is now to go and eat and drink in Greece. But I don't really experience that because I don't go away.
So obviously there were issues with PPE and stuff at the beginning of the pandemic. And it can be hard to sort of separate the distinction because Brexit kind of happened as we were in that period, and then we had Ukraine and other supply shocks. Was there any supply issue that you saw that you could attribute to Brexit, or is that all like buried in everything else of just like, we've always got supply issues?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've never ever had PPE supply issues, and that was horrific. And that was a massive impact on us financially as a business, because particularly when you're doing palliative care, you know, you're doing personal care, you're having to replace your PPE quite frequently.
Yeah. And you're seeing so many more people now as well.
Yeah.
Because you're picking up all that slack. So you're going through all your consumables much faster.
And there were people that were royally taking the mick with the prices because they had lots available. So, you know, like you'd have like a little £1 hand sanitizer bottle and they were charging £10 for them. I did have a bit of an argument with a shop owner, and because he was trying to charge me £10 for a bottle of sanitizer. And I said to him, I will pay you £5 per bottle of this sanitizer, but only because I need it. And then I literally threw the money at him. And I was like, but when this is all over and you're desperate for our business again, don't think we're coming back in here. So I took my 100 bottles of sanitizer and I walked away. But I was like, you just can't do that. You know, I was so cross with people. But we were like helping other companies as well. So if we had a surplus, then we'd share. You know, if it was a case of, you know, just anything, it was just, I just always think people should be looking for opportunities of how they can help each other and not try to make a profit out of it. You know, and there was a lot of that going on, and that made me really disappointed in mankind. I thought it was really sad.
Yeah. So where am I going to go next? Oh, I'll go climate change next. So climate change, this question is on for a number of reasons, largely because I want to talk about climate change and I don't hear enough discussion about it, and you can't really talk to your family about it because they've all heard your opinions and you've heard all of theirs. So yeah, and Leeds has declared a climate emergency, so I think it's like it's a good thing to discuss for a Leeds-based work thing. So from a climate change perspective, has there been any effect on your work? Is there any impact that you can think of, or is there any way that you kind of work with climate change? Is it built into your considerations, or is that like a nice to have, or like where does it sit for you work-wise?
So I am very, very passionate about minimising paper. For lots of reasons. So I banned post-it notes years ago because they are just a nightmare. So if you've written a message on a post-it note and left it on somebody's computer screen or their desk and then it floats away, then that message is lost. So I might send an email, or I'll have like an internal messaging system. So then it's all there. But same with anything. So when I see people printing stuff off, I'm like, did it need to be printed? Did it? No, save the trees. But it's more from like the perspective of safety and business assurance than saving the trees. I mean, obviously I like trees, but it's more from that kind of front. But I do always, wherever I can, help businesses where I can either help them, you know, get to like carbon neutral, or if I can reduce their paper usage, I will always do that. I also drive an electric car. I have major battery anxiety. So I'm not going to lie, I've become that really boring person now. It's not a Tesla, by the way, but Toyota all the way. But I've become that person that when they're like, oh yeah, do you want to come out to like this networking event? I'm like, oh yeah, where is it? And like Sheffield, I'm like, that's about 20% in it on my battery. And I have to, it's like sit and look at it, I'm like, no, I think I'll just stay in Leeds, thanks. So I do have major battery anxiety. I watch it all the time and I'm like, I'm down to 86. I think I'm on 75 at the moment, but I'm only going home after this, so I'll be all right. But yeah, so I do drive an electric car. I recycle, I do everything I can to try and help, because even though I'm not necessarily convinced that everything I do is going to make a massive impact, it's a little bit that helps. And, you know, I think that's very similar to what I used to do in care, or a similar kind of theory, which is when we used to do person-centred planning, and we talk about the differences that you can make. And there's a really beautiful story about a little boy in starfish. So as he's walking, have you heard it? So he walks on the beach and there's like 10,000 starfish and he's like picking them up and throwing back in. And then another guy comes up to him and he's like, what possible difference could you make? There's thousands of them. And he picks up a starfish, throws it into the sea, and he goes, I made a difference to that one. So if I can just make that small difference, and that's my attitude to life. So if I can speak to one person and give them a good day or help them out with something, then I've done my bit. You know, and likewise with, if I drive an electric car, you know, rather than something else that's going to be petrol guzzling or whatever, then I'm doing my bit. I'm doing what I can to help.
Just to pick your healthcare brain, I mean, in terms of illnesses, I mean, like, okay, I'll ask you this. On the, we can always cut it out as well. I don't want to put you in any...
No, it's fine.
But, yeah, so how much do you buy into the kind of narrative that COVID is kind of climate related or biodiversity related, in terms of, you know, the discussion that we will have more pandemics because of increased rises in heat, and then obviously like large scale global transportation and stuff. Do you, or have you seen, or do you kind of expect climate impacts on health? Obviously hotter temperatures, people overheating more, colder temperatures, those kind of things. But yeah, I just, obviously if you don't have a fully sort of thought out discussion of this, that's fine, but I just wanted to pick your brains from that perspective.
Yeah, I think everything has an impact. So I think, you know, climate change is affecting like how food grows. It affects then obviously that we're consuming that. I think we've also got issues with, we are, you know, living organisms that are changing all the time. I don't know what we're feeding our kids these days, but my God, they're all so tall. You know, like, and I'm shrinking. So I used to be 5'6", I'm now 5'4", and then someone will go, this is my son, and I'm like, wow, he's like 6'6". Like, yeah, he's 11. I'm like, what are you feeding him? You know, like, so there's obviously something going on there, because I don't remember all these kids being this tall when I were at school. Everyone were 5'4", 5'6" like me. So I don't understand what's going on there. But I think obviously it's evolution as well, isn't it? So the world is evolving, we're evolving. There's always going to be things that are changing all the time, and we're always going to have new things that we have to deal with. You know, illnesses. There's so many new illnesses or things that are becoming antibiotic resistant. So we've just got to learn. We've got to keep evolving. I am so excited that they have come up with an injection that you can have a series of, and all of your teeth grow back. Now, as somebody who, you know, has done a hell of a lot of steroids from MS, asthma, eczema, you know, I've pulled most of the calcium out of my bones. So my knees are not great, my hip is not good, I am losing my teeth because they're disintegrating from the inside. I'm up for those injections. So, you know, all this biohacking, and I think, you know, anything that I can do, like, and it's cheaper, like 10 grand an injection. That's cheaper than me going and having implants. I just grow myself a new teeth. The only downside is you don't get to choose which teeth. It just does the whole set. And then you go back to being that, you know, that kid at 7 years old where you lost your 2 front teeth and everyone takes the mick out of you. At 45, I'm not sure that will still wash for me, you know. But I reckon I can style it out. You know, so if my 2 front teeth dropped out, I'd be like, yeah, do you know what? I'm just growing myself some new ones. It's a talking point, isn't it? It's an icebreaker. But yeah, I think that's one of the things where we've just got to learn. We've got to deal with whatever happens, risk assess, come up with new ways of doing that.
Yeah, and I think that triage is going to be a very important skill for the future of like, right, well, we're not going to be able to save that. We're not going to be able to save that. We're not going to be able to save that. And, you know, just because there's going to be so much to deal with.
I was going to say, I think one of the biggest issues that we've got coming is not necessarily about whether we can overcome things. It's going to be the ethics behind what we're doing. And I think that's always going to play a really big part. Is just because we can, does that mean we should?
Well, I also think that one of the issues that it doesn't get any consideration is, you know, people don't die in an orderly fashion, as we know from COVID. And it will be indiscriminate, which means we're going to lose, like, we're already losing skills and knowledge left, right, and centre. And, you know, I put a post this morning about, like, there's always these, you know, discussions about migration. It's like, there's never any discussion about brain drain, about all the people and stuff that we're losing that are leaving. But, you know, loads of skilled people, knowledgeable people will die within that as well. And it's like, what systems do we have in place to upskill people quickly? Like, you can't rely on this rubbish AI stuff to, you know, do everything for you. And I think that's like, skills need to be shared. We need to be training people. Like, I really like big on training as well. I think we need to be funding lots of training, you know, and getting people skilled up and upskilling people in the workforce and bringing other people in, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, that'll probably
No, I completely
happen
agree.
in time.
I was a huge advocate back in, you know, like my director roles of apprentices, of just passing on that knowledge, you know, kind of bring people in and train them.
Yeah.
And I've always said to people, hire for attitude, you can train everything else.
Yeah.
So as long as somebody has got the attitude that they want to learn and they want to do well and they've got the right motivations and intent, I'll take them on.
Yeah.
I'll take them on and go, right, I can teach you everything else.
Yeah. And as well, because you've got the right ingredients in place, like I can tell from it, like you're very like active, driven, motivated. But like you say, there's a genuineness there of like you're a person underneath it, and very often that drivenness can come across as like, I'm just a robot doing this. But
see, that's why I'm not bossy, but aggressively helpful.
yeah, but I can tell, like I can tell from just our meeting, like if I was working for you, I would get the impression of like, oh, she's very business orientated and very like active. But then I would soon be like, yeah, she actually knows what she's doing as well, though. And like there's, you know, there's substance to it. It's not just I've read a bunch of books and I want to do this. It's like I would buy into you.
Well, it's like, it's funny. So I have had like people kind of, not necessarily insult, but kind of call me on like my leadership style. So all my teams, and I generally will work with like, so if I've got an opportunity to work with somebody that I've worked with well before, I'll bring them in.
Yeah.
And there's a few people that, you know, like Tracy and Martin, bless him, like, and Cameron, they're just brilliant. So, you know, if I was in a position where I could afford all of them, I would have all of them working with me. And my team, like my last team, were amazing. But I had people questioning my management style. And when I'd gone to go visit one of the other offices, she turned round, and I think Martin and Tracy were kind of like making jokes about me, and I can't remember what it was. It'll have either been them picking on me for my ginger skin, because I sunburned really quickly, which is why I now look like a packet of prawn cocktail quavers, because I sat in the sun for an hour. But, you know, they'll have been picking on me for something silly like that. And this other office manager had said to me, I wouldn't dare let my team speak about me the way that your team speak about you. And I said, and that's your choice. That's how you manage your team. I was like, well, let me tell you something. If you phoned your team at 10 o'clock at night and said to them, I need your help, 1, would they answer? And 2, would they do it? Because my team would. I was like, I don't care what they say about things like that don't matter. What I care about is that they respect me. And if I ask something of them, they are there 100%. Sometimes we'd go in and work on bank holidays. That's unheard of. But I'd be like, I'm really, really sorry. Is there any chance? Yeah, let's get lunch as well while we're there. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, so it's kind of, but then sometimes I'd be like, right, it's 3 o'clock and I've had enough, so shall we go to the pub? So it's that whole kind of give and take. But I loved my team.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved them.
But
it's communication, isn't it? It's like being upfront with people and telling, like setting expectations, managing expectation, being honest, being upfront, and just letting people know the expectations, what I want you to do, when I want you to do it. And like so many people find that so difficult. Just
I know.
like,
but even in the same ways, like, you know, sometimes you've got to have uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
And, you know, like my best friend will be the first one to say that I've made her cry a few times where, you know, I've been her manager and I've pulled her into an office. And I am a bit mean because I like people to cry.
yeah.
But not in an awful way.
Yeah.
I like, and particularly with Trace, I like to see her cry because then I know she cares.
Yeah.
So if I'm speaking to her, I'm going, you know, like, this has not been going well, or we need to do this, or whatever, or I need your help with this. If they get to a point where they are crying, I'm like, okay, so you do care, you just need help.
Yeah.
But if I'm like speaking or managing somebody and they're not kind of doing what I need them to do, and then I'm sat there and they're just arguing with me, then they probably don't care.
Yeah.
But once I've got like scratched that surface, and like with her, I could see that she wasn't happy at one point. I mean, this is years ago now, but I could see that she wasn't happy. And I was like, is it that she's not interested, or is it that she needs help? Because I could see her drowning. She'd got too much work on, and I was trying to get the MD to give me like the funds to take on somebody else.
Yeah.
But I did keep saying to her, do you need anything, do you need anything? But she's like me, and she's fierce, so she's like, no, I can do it by myself, I can do it by myself. And then I could see her drowning, and I was like, please just let me help you. But I knew that she wasn't gonna, so I had to bring her into that meeting. Then we had that chat, she cried, and I was like, oh, good, yeah, no, we're on the right page now. And then after, she's like, so mean. I'm like, it's only because I love you. But yeah, so I can come across sometimes as like I'm being quite aggressive, but I'm not. I am probably one of the world's biggest softies. And I will do anything for anybody, sometimes at the cost of my own kind of happiness.
Well, people are scared of decisiveness as well, because most people aren't decisive.
No.
And it's that sort of thing of like, but you know, and then the flip side of that is that there are people who are trying to be decisive all the time. And it's like, you're making these judgments, but you're not basing them on anything. You're just going, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Like, being decisive, like you're speaking from a place of authority of like, I've done this, I've done that, I've tried this, you know, like, so I can be decisive. I know that this works, so I want to do that. Or I want to do this, but it's not working here, so I want to change it to that. And a lot of people, they're working on that, I'm just the authority and we should try this.
But it's that ego thing again though, isn't it? That we were saying about earlier. And that's the one thing I always say, if you've got a massive ego, it's going to be the downfall of your business. Because it is not all about, so these people that kind of run this business, it's all about their pride and I'm a director of a business, and you know, and I'm like, you're just gonna fail. Because you throwing your weight around like that and expecting, and these people that think that they can command respect rather than earn it, I'm like, no, it don't work. They might be scared of you, but they've got zero respect for you.
And you know, the other businesses or the public, they're your customers. Why do you want to be pissing them off?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Telling them that you're better than them.
Yeah, I don't. And the ones that shout the loudest about, oh, I'm better than this and this and this and this, you know, we're better than that company, we're better than that company, they're normally the ones that've got...
all bark, no substance to it. So, I'm going to do the social media question now. I don't know if this is... I mean, obviously, I found you on LinkedIn via another previous guest, Alan Thompson. Go check out that episode.
I love Alan. Love him.
Yeah, business dad.
Yeah, but so obviously what's bizarre about that was when I had my company during COVID, Alan was my business mentor. So he was my assigned business mentor through the adventure scheme.
Yeah.
So I loved him. He was the first person that I spoke to when I decided I was going to be a business coach. And I went and met with him purely out of the massive amount of respect that I have for him, and said, look, I'm thinking about being a business coach. I'm aware that that's what you do. And I wanted you to be the first person that I spoke to. He was like, I think that's a really good idea. I mean, bless him, I saw him the other day and he was like, you know, I keep trying to retire, but you know, I just keep getting more clients. And I'm like, you can't retire. I was like, we've got to stave off that dementia, Alan, you know. It's like, keep that mind busy. I'm going to be on him and make sure he can't retire. Because I'm literally sat there thinking, I'll just pay him as my business coach, then he has to keep working. You know, like, just, again, aggressively helpful. I'm just going to make sure that...
Just a few hours, keep your brain going.
Absolutely, stave away that dementia. But he's fabulous. He's such a nice guy. His dad jokes, though, honestly. And sometimes I walk right into them. So he'll go, did you hear about this? I'm like, no. And then it's a joke, and I'm like, oh God, this is like being at home with my husband and his dad jokes. I'm like, why do I not see them? I walk straight into them, and I feel like such an idiot. And then he sat there giggling away, and I'm like, I'm never going to introduce him to my husband. They would be the worst pairing ever, because they'd laugh at each other's jokes. I'm like, no.
So social media then. Do you have to do a lot of it? So what I want to look at with this question is the return on investment for your time. So the amount of time that you put into it, whatever way that you do it. And then, you know, early on, I was very much thinking just posting, but now it's the whole thing of like, you know, connecting to people or meeting people. How much time do you have to spend on social media? Do you feel like you know what you're doing with it? And do you feel that you get the return on investment of that time that you want from it?
Yeah, so I think social media is really important today. I think, obviously, I've been in like sales roles for 20 years, and sales and marketing has massively changed. So like this generation, completely different to what I started out in, where it was like boiler room, you know, we had I'm showing my age now, but we had a Rolodex with client telephone numbers on it, and you'd be like phoning through there and be like, hi, it's Kirsty, and I'm just ringing to see if you've got any business. And we were, not that I were ever like sharky, but we had to be a little bit more like aggressive and ask for the business. And it's not like that now. It's very much about relationship building, which suits me because that's how I work. So I like to kind of get to know people and see if they're the kind of people I want to work with. But I always say, so I love TikTok, massive fan of it. I actually have 3 channels on there. One is just my dog, who I taught to speak with buttons during COVID. Massive mistake. But although everyone's like, does she just press the treat button all the time? I'm like, no. She's like, cuddles, cuddles. So you can't touch one of the cats because she just gets jealous. So just pressing these buttons all the time. It's cost me a fortune in batteries. But yeah, that was a mistake, but people love her TikTok channel. But I think it's really important, particularly for people like me, where my voice doesn't necessarily match my personality. So I think I'm quite mannish sounding. And when I used to work, obviously, in recruitment, it was mainly on the phone. So I would be speaking to people, and I sound very, very confident on the phone. I also sound a little bit arrogant. So if I'm phoning somebody and I'm like chatting away, and this is my normal voice, so I'm quite low, you know, I've got the same vocal range as Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. Never going to be like a Kate Bush kind of woman. But my voice makes me sound very, very confident and arrogant. So when I was then trying to do sales, I would not get sales over the phone. So what I would have to do is kind of move my voice around like this a little bit. I'd call people sweetheart, just to kind of soften my language. And then I would go out and see people. And as soon as I'm in front of them and I'm here with like my tattoos and piercings and I had long blonde curly hair and my big blue eyes, then they go, oh no, she's actually really nice. And then when they see that I'm a softie that rescues pigeons from the garden, I'm a very, very different person to what they've heard, like, you know, on the phone. And I think because people buy from people, you need to be seen. And a lot of my clients get really cross with me because I'm like, put some videos on your LinkedIn, you know, get some pictures of you just like drinking coffee, show them who you are as a person. And my absolute golden rule for social media is if you just do 3 posts a week, which you don't need to do any more than that, one of them should be your call to action. So your actual, this is what I do, you know, this is me selling my business. The other one should be inform and educate about what you're doing in your sector. So for you, it might be, you know, podcasting, like 97% of people are more likely, whatever. So inform and educate. And then the other one is personal. So who are you as a person? So if you go out walking with your dog, let's see some pictures. You know, if you are addicted to Starbucks coffee like I am, let's see some pictures. You know, so it's kind of bringing that personal element to it. And I think those are the golden trio of what you should be doing. But yeah, if you're not on social media, you're missing a massive trick because that's where most of business is done now, apart from face-to-face networking. It's all on socials. And I love TikTok.
I mean, it sounds like you have to spend a lot of time, though, doing the do. And a lot of people, so other people that I've spoken to, like a key one is marketing agencies where they're spending so much time marketing for other people that they don't do any marketing for themselves because even though that attracts marketing, and it's like they should be doing that to show that marketing is like really good and groovy.
Do you know what?
But at the same time, you're doing the work. So it's that.
That is the age-old thing of physician heal thyself.
Yeah. Well,
So-
I always talk about builders, and you go to their house and it's never built.
100%. Also, have you ever noticed the really good hairdressers have crap hair? Because they have got zero time to do their own. But that's how you know. Like, if I see a hairdresser and she's got crap hair, I'm like, I bet she's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, you can just tell.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like, I am rubbish. My CV is terrible.
Yeah.
It is awful. Can I write an amazing CV for somebody else? Absolutely, because I've done 20 years in recruitment. I know exactly what I'm looking at. I can be objective, but I cannot write my own.
Yeah.
And marketing companies, it's the same. If I owned a marketing company, I would get somebody else to do my marketing because that is the sensible way to do it.
Yeah. 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 So listen to that, marketers.
Go get another marketing company.
This should be like a specialist leads company that markets for all the other marketing companies.
Absolutely. But it is, and then the thing is, you're helping each other and you're learning from it as well. Like, even when I worked in recruitment, I would be friends with other recruiters. If they wanted references, I'd always make sure I sent them back.
Yeah.
I'd make friends with them. You never know who you're going to come across in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even now, like, although I do almost like a bit of a sector lockout, so if I'm supporting one company that does one thing that's, like specific, I probably wouldn't take on another company that does the same thing because I'd feel disingenuous because I like to put all of my love and, effort into that business, and I don't want to separate it between two.
Yeah.
But I would still help the other guys if it were like, could you just give me a little bit of advice on cash flow forecasting? Yeah, that's fine, but I'm not going to help you grow your business.
Yeah.
By introducing you to all of my clients because I feel loyal to this other person, and I'm always really upfront about that from the beginning. But I do think, in terms of where you're doing things very specific, like sales and marketing, you've got to look at the professionals and the people that know what they're doing inside and out. And it's exactly the same as if you've got no background or qualifications in accounts and finance, you don't do your own books.
Yeah.
So why would you suddenly think that you can do everything else?
Yeah.
You go to the specialists.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes for people, it's just you don't have a choice because you don't have the money to spend.
Oh yeah. To start off with, you've got to wear all those hats.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually working with a company at the moment who we've built a game. And it is a game.
Is it a board game or is it?
No, it is in-person networking.
Okay.
Where you come in and everyone has a role. So you've got somebody that steps in as accountant, someone will be marketing manager, somebody will be sales manager, ops manager. So you have a group of 5 people and you go, right, name your business. And then you play through each of the 4 quarters of your first financial year. And obviously I'm one of those people. So when people come in, I'm going to be really nice. And I'm going to be like, okay, so you work in the creative sector. So you'll probably want to be marketing manager. And they'll go, yeah, that's where I'd feel most comfortable. Where would you feel most uncomfortable? Probably finance. Excellent, you're going to be our accountant today. And then it teaches you all about, so you go through, you play, and it's fun. You're playing against other teams, but you don't know how they're doing until you get to the end of each quarter. You'll get given real life scenarios. So, you're going to invest, like you say, you're going to invest in using a marketing specific company, or can you not afford to do that? And you're going to just try and do it yourselves. And every decision that you make has an impact on your profitability for the quarter. And then at the end of it, we can then look at, so were you a high risk, low risk or medium risk profile? What is your risk profile? And what we want to try and do is get people to kind of look at things and go, actually, do you know what? I've learned quite a lot from this about myself. So I'm normally quite a high risk person. But when I've made all these high risks, my profitability has taken a hammering over the year. So I maybe need to come back down to kind of medium risk.
Yeah.
And then what I'm going to do is, because, I've got to help everybody else, I'm then going to signpost the people from the game, because there's nothing worse than you doing something where it's like, well, that's great, thanks, Kirsty. I've realised that, as I said to you before, I'm really good at marketing, but I'm rubbish at finance. Now I'm walking away miserable. Once we've highlighted where there is a need or an improvement, I can then refer on to other people in my network. So I've got people that do websites, I've got people that do sales training, I've got people that do IT support, HR, well-being in the workplace. So I can then take their newfound issue or learning curve and then signpost them to the relevant people where I know, one, they're not going to pay loads of money, but they're also going to get looked after. So they've got that return on investment.
Yeah.
So everybody's a winner.
Yeah. Nice.
But I'm so excited. I'm going to be games master.
So I'll forget to ask you, and in case you forget at the end when I do the socials and stuff, where can people find out about that?
So it's going to be happening very soon.
Okay. I mean, it'll take ages for me to get this out.
LinkedIn.
So
yeah, it's going to be all over my LinkedIn.
So check your LinkedIn.
100%.
Links will be at the end and in the show notes.
Look, if there's one thing I do really well, it's shout loud. So if I've done something, everybody knows about it.
Yeah, we should talk about the book as well at some point. So, yeah, change question. Actually, no, yeah, we'll do the change question. So I often say now that this is more difficult when you work for yourself because obviously you can change a lot of things. But if you could change any 3 things about your work, and I expect you'll have answers for this. If you can change any 3 things about your work, what would you change?
At the moment, I'm very happy. I think one thing that it's not necessarily that I would change about my business or my work, it's more about the sector. So as soon as I say that I'm a business coach, obviously there's lots of business coaches. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, like any sector, there's a lot of people out there that have given the role a bit of a bad reputation.
Well, and anyone can be a business coach. You don't need a qualification for it. There's no board of professionals. You just go, I'm a coach.
And I think, like, I've got a client at the moment who I absolutely love to pieces. He's such a nice guy. And he had a really bad experience with a business coach. But bless him, because when I first asked if he wanted to meet for a coffee, he didn't say no. And then we sat and had a chat. Obviously, we got to know each other. Then he started telling me, I'm such a softie, but I ended up sat in my car crying. And then my friend was on holiday, so I couldn't even get hold of her for like an hour or so. And that was just too much. So I ended up doing a rant on TikTok. Because I was so cross that, you know, just like when I was a teacher, you have that ability as a business coach to sit and say to people, you can achieve whatever you put your mind to. You're there to kind of inspire and motivate.
Well, you're a coach. You're supposed to support, encourage, you know, like train as well, but also like you're supposed to be there giving them, bigging them up.
Well, that's not what this coach did. So this coach took thousands of pounds off someone that really couldn't afford to lose thousands of pounds, and then turned around to him and said, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think you've got what it takes to be a successful business owner, so I'm dropping you as a client. And that broke my heart because it took me right back to my teaching days when I'd see teachers going, well, I know what kind of kid he's gonna be, and he's never gonna amount to anything.
At the gas station.
And I'm like, well, if you keep saying that to him, guess what? That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're in that position where you can help...
It's your job to get them the job at the aerospace company.
Like, tell them they can do anything. I mean, manage their expectations a little bit, you know, but yeah, just... I know I was heartbroken because I'm like, oh, God, I've already left one sector for this reason, and then I've just come straight back into another one. It's like I just naturally gravitate to these sectors where everyone goes, oh, recruiter, oh, teacher, oh, another business coach. And I'm like, why do I keep doing this to myself?
You'll have to go into hedge funds next.
I might do. I might become an insurance broker. But yeah, it was just like, so I think if I could, I would change the perception of business coaches, which obviously I can't do, but I'm trying to one person at a time.
Yeah, you can for the people that are your clients and the people that come into contact with
and I'll joke, so when people go, oh, business coach, I've met loads of your kind, I'm like, not my kind, I'm a Viking-inspired business coach.
Let's go back to that. Why? Do you carry an axe?
I do not. I do have one though. It's ridiculously as it sounds, and this makes me sound like such a nerd, I've always loved Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Love it. But it was only when Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out.
Nice.
And I'm a massive gamer. I played World of Warcraft for 15 years online. You know, I used to run raids on a Tuesday and Sunday. So I was like coaching all of like these 11-year-olds, which is really annoying because you get like halfway through the evening, they go, Mum said I've got to go and have my dinner. So then you have to do a break while all the kids go and have their dinner, and all of like us 30-year-olds that are playing it are just sat there chatting, waiting for the kids to come back. And I'm like, why are we doing this to ourselves? But I loved it. But yeah, so I went from, like, I've always been a gamer, but I was playing on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm about as stealthy as a sledgehammer, so I liked that one because it wasn't too much kind of hiding in the shadows, trying to take people out stealthy, because I can't do it. I'm rubbish at stealth.
Just run in, throw your axe at someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Run around, chop somebody up with your axe. Absolutely brilliant. And then, I don't know what it was, but I was just like, I think I was born in the wrong time. Like, I totally could have been a Viking. So, and then it like just kind of goes from there, doesn't it? Then it got to Halloween, and after I'd been a Viking for 120 hours, I was like, yeah, I'm totally a Viking now. So I dressed up as a Viking for Halloween, which was really embarrassing because I ended up doing a Zoom call with a new client. And I was sat there, and, you know, I'm one of those women that's like, go big or go home. So I've got full on like black makeup across my face, like war makeup. I'd drawn runes on my forehead. I'm sat there with like these blonde plaits, like wig. I've got a cloak on with fur. You know, like I've got an axe and a shield. Yeah, it was just... And this client must have thought, what on earth is this woman doing? Do we really want to give her our business? Luckily, she thought it was brilliant and did actually show me around to all of the office. And then she was going, look at this woman. This woman is literally sat here in a Viking outfit. And I was like, we're going out after work. But yeah, so when I then set up this business, I was thinking of like different company names that I could call it. And like, you know, I wanted to kind of embody the whole Yorkshire spirit. And then it was so hard because every like name that I came up with that I thought was like really ingenious, I like Googled it or looked it up on Company's House, and there's already a company with that name.
Yeah.
So I was like, how am I going to come up with something new? And then it was my best friend that was like, why don't we look at like some words in like, you know, Norse or like old kind of, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. So then we were looking at things like warrior, because I've always been like, obviously I'm an MS warrior. So she was like, what's warrior in like, you know, Norse, or what's this? And I'm not gonna lie, most of the words that we liked in English, when you then look them up, they're like, and I'm like, I can't call my business name this really aggressive sounding word. So we're like, no, we need to come up with something else. So then we were looking at like all the different kind of like what was the old name, like the Middle English name for Leeds, what was, you know, but everyone's got like Leodis or whatever. Yeah. So I was like, oh. And then we came up, we were looking, and we found that prior to being called Jorvik, York and her counties was called Eothavik, and then changed to Everwick, which was easy to say. And I was like, I actually really like the word Everwick. That sounds really nice. And then I was like, Everwick Consulting. Then we started looking at it, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I love that. And then I like started looking at the logo design, and the guy that did the logos, I was like, I want some axes in there. I want a helmet. It's like all Viking because I'm constantly fighting for what I want in life. I was like, it's all about business growth. So then he did this logo, and I loved it. So I agreed it, paid for it, had it like printed on stuff, turned up. My husband went, why has it got a phallus in the middle of it? And I was like, it hasn't. That is an arrow to represent growth. And he was like, no, darling, that looks like a penis. I was like, well, do you know what? It's too late now. I'm like, so I'm just going to have to embrace it. But I actually love my logo. And I love, like, we do get called Everwike. Or someone thought it was every week, but I just spelled it wrong. I was like, no. He went, do you call it every week because that's how often I see you? And I was like, no, it's Everwick. And he was like, oh, right, yeah, no, I just read it as every week. I was like, no, it's not. But yeah, so no, that was kind of where it came from, and then I've just kind of fully embraced it. But I do like the Viking code. Yeah. And obviously it's the whole kind of, you know, you honour your parents, you teach the young. And when I first read that and I was looking at it all, and I was like, this is actually how I live my life. And the last one is always leave your mark. And I think anyone who's ever met me or spent 5 minutes with me, I'm not easy to forget. So I was like, I 100%, when I leave this world, I have left my mark. So I live my life according to that Viking code.
Okay, so I'll give you a quick chance. Are there any other changes that you would want to make before we move on to the next question?
No,
I'm sure there's a whole world of them, but
yeah.
You know, for the purposes of this, no. Okay, so final question, universal basic income. If there was a universal basic income, how do you think that might change your work? Now, obviously here, so with people that are earning, you know, generally, it's not going to make a major impact. But then when I've talked to other people as well, there's also concern that if there was something like a UBI, would that mean less for people who are disabled, need access, need drugs, and so on? Isn't that just going to be an expense that they're bearing? So there could be other sort of things in there. But yeah, I'm just throwing these things in as things to potentially think about. But from your perspective, do you think it would change anything for you if there was a universal basic income?
So I do really, really like the idea of that, of there being like a kind of, threshold, like a basis to start from. And I don't think that, the minimum wage kind of cuts the mustard. I think we've had a lot of price increases in a lot of things, and I can see people struggling. I also think that, I recently had an article in the Yorkshire Post about give people with hidden disabilities a chance to soar. And I think we're not doing enough to kind of help people who are unemployed get back into work. So I think there's a lot that we need to do, and it's where does that money come from? And I don't have the answer to that, unfortunately. So I think if it was that, somebody somewhere can kind of sit and go, right, okay, we need to be a little bit more cost effective. If I were running a cash flow forecast for the whole country, I reckon I could do it.
Yeah.
I reckon I could go in there and go, right, these people are doing some very creative accounting and I can see it. So no, we're going to get some more money off them in corporation tax.
Yeah.
But kind of look after the little guy. I was chatting to one of my clients this morning who was saying about he's got to pay 19% corporation tax, and he's like looking at it and he's like, it's saying that I've made this much money profit, well, where is it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's very, very difficult. And I think we need to be kind of encouraging small business owners. And I think in an ideal world, it would be fabulous if somebody was, small business owner, and we can ensure that they're on minimum wage and we're supporting that business to grow, to then be able to hire more people, and then they're all on, the UBI, then yeah, absolutely amazing. I want a world where everybody wins, because I actually am a big believer in, if you're not working, where is your sense of purpose? Because I don't know about anybody else. I can be blind and I'm still going to work because I can't bear just being sat at home doing nothing. My brain just gets so bored and then I get depressed. So, I think giving people that opportunity to get back into work or to find employment where they've got that sense of purpose, that's what we need to be really focusing on, and giving people a reason to want to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like the flip side, because we haven't got time. So I've got this T-shirt that says "I would prefer not to," that I love. That's and another one that's Mr. Lazy. So I like to present as lazy, and I because for me climate change is an energy crisis, and it's a problem of we need everyone and we need to change everything, but also we don't need to do as much. You're using all that energy, all that activity, that kind of thing. So there will be a need for people to do less to a degree, to be more fallow and so on. But I agree with you that there is like vagrancy and idleness, to use old-fashioned terms, is that's a real problem. Because I've been in roles where I've not had to do much. I don't know if you've ever experienced this. Probably not, because you're finding your own job. But when you're in a role like that, and when someone comes up to you and asks you to do something, even though you're not doing anything, you're like, "What? Get off!" It's like, I'm just sitting here doing nothing. That's my job. Even though you want to do stuff, and it is better to be doing stuff and to be busy. Could you cope with? Could someone make you not work? Maybe
no.
Could someone just get you to sit down and go, stop it for a minute, Kirsty?
No.
Okay.
Many men have tried, none have succeeded. I can't do it. I literally cannot do it.
Do you feel the same about other people, though? Do you have that need of, other people need to, get up and you have to do something as well?
No, that's just how I work.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that when I'm coaching my client, my husband was listening to me the other day and was like, "Who are you?" And I was on a Zoom call with one of my clients, and she was talking about how she's really tired and she's not been well. And I said to her, "You're doing too much."
Yeah.
I was like, "So you need to stick to your work hours of Monday to Friday, 9 till 5.
Yeah.
And outside of that, you just need to rest." I was like, "You've also not taken a break since you started your business a year ago. So I think you need to have a look at your calendar and book some time in."
Yeah.
And I'm sat there and I'm giving this amazing advice. My HR manager's coming out and I'm like, if you don't invest in yourselves, how can you look after your business?
Yeah.
I then came away from that and my husband went, I mean, that's some cracking advice from a woman I found asleep on a laptop at 11 o'clock last night. I'm like, look, it's do as I say, not as I do. So, no, I don't expect anybody to be as stupid as me.
Yeah.
You know, like, I know that, and I don't know why I'm like this. It's like, I don't know whether it's because the ADHD, I don't know whether it's because, you know, part of it is that because I have MS, which is, you know, not in my control in any way, shape or form, I don't know when I might be poorly next. You know, I don't know that, like, next week I might not be able to walk, or next month I might go blind for a month. So I try and get in as much as I can while I feel well.
Yeah.
And then that way I don't feel so guilty about being poorly.
Yeah.
But then I kind of work my way like that constantly.
But why should you feel guilty about being poorly?
I don't know, I just do. That's just who I am.
But that's not, there's no blame on you for that. That's...
No, but I'd feel like I was letting people down because I've always worked in a sector, whether it's business coaching or whether it's healthcare, where somebody's reliant on me. And I do that because I like helping people. You know, it's very much who I am. So I then do feel guilty because I have got people that will be let down, even though my clients are amazing. And if I said to them, look, I'm really sorry, you know, I'm not well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. So Aaron, one of my clients who is an occupational therapist and runs his own business, I had a day where I was fine. I'd been to networking, had 2 meetings, sat down, did a Zoom call, and then next minute, my right leg just stopped working. So I tried to stand up because my sister was ringing me, and my leg just gave way. It was just not working. And then he was messaging me about something else. I said, look, I'm really sorry, I'm not having a good day. I think I'm having a relapse or I'm having a flare. And then he was like, send me your address, I'm coming round now. And I was like, you are not. He's like, yes, I am. He turned up with a walking stick that was like full-on NHS spec. And I was like, no, I've ordered a purple one off Amazon. He's like, no, I will not let you use that. It's not safe. And then he's got these boxes. And I'm like, what's in them? And I was like, you've brought me a pedestal for the toilet and a shower chair, haven't you? And he was like, got to make sure that you're safe. And I'm like, I love that you care so much, but you clearly do not know how stubborn I am because I'm not using any of it. All right, you can go put it back in your car.
I do appreciate it, but it's not happening. Any of the things that you've suggested will not happen.
But I think he really enjoyed that change of the table.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's used to me going, right, I know you don't want to do a cash flow forecast, but you're doing it anyway, and this is what we're going to do. And he was like, yeah, now I get to be in charge.
Yeah.
You know, the tables have turned, and now I'm telling you, you need to take some time off work and rest. And then he's like, let me see you get in and out of bed. Let's do a moving and handling assessment. I'm like, oh my God, you're so mean. But yeah, it was really funny. I didn't like being on that side. I like being on the other side.
Yeah.
So I'm not a good patient.
I mean, I'm thinking of like sort of gay ball mate and stuff of like, you know, the stresses and stuff and how things manifest in the body. Do you think, I mean, you have said as much, I think, but it drives you. It you know, rather than like the illness is a warning to stop you doing things of like, you need to slow down, you need to change, you need to do this. You've kind of gone, this is the driver. This is, I need to do more. I need to do it faster. I need to get it in there.
Well, it's not so much as about doing more or doing faster. It's that I refuse to do nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm no different really in terms of like, I've always had a really strong work ethic. So I worked from 13, so doing my GCSEs and A-levels, I always had a part-time job. I've just always, work has always been really important to me, and I've had that built into me from my parents. So my dad's got a ridiculously strong work ethic, and all of us girls are exactly the same. So my older sister runs her own business. My sister's got like 2 or 3 jobs. So she does the radiography and lecturing. We're all like this. And it's hilarious because my dad had said, you know, I thought I'd given you girls a really good example of what a man is, you know, so that you'd get like an ambitious and hard-working husband. It's like, I'm sat here looking at your husbands, and not one of you married an ambitious man. And I'm going, no, Dad. And my mum turned around and went, no, because what they've done is they've all chosen to be you. She was like, so rather than marrying an ambitious man, she went, these feisty women that you've brought up have all become an ambitious woman. She was like, so they've taken that role instead. And I'm like, that's exactly what we've done. But that's because we watched my mum, you know, like my dad will point something on the floor and he'll go, Sue, pick this up. And my mum will do it. Like, she is a really good housewife. And I grew up looking at that and I was like, no chance.
Yep.
So I don't cook, clean, wash or iron. I'm like, it's not my job. I didn't even learn to iron. I don't even know how to do
Who
it.
irons?
I know, I'm like, it's fine. You just buy clothes that don't need it.
Yeah, who's the only people that iron are over 70.
It's people that iron their bedding. I'm like, why are you bothering?
Ironing socks.
Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
No one's going to see the pants.
Yeah, no one cares. Like, I've turned up to networking before in like a creased cardigan, and it's hilarious because Daniela will sometimes turn around to me and go, sweetheart, please learn to iron. And I'm like, no, I won't. I'm like, I won't do it. I refuse. I don't even think we've got an iron in our house, actually. But yeah, you don't need it.
Nah.
It's fine.
Unless it's like a really, important old style formal business meeting where black tie event or whatever.
Then I go to my mum's.
Yeah.
Because my mum and dad have got a steamer.
Yeah.
So I will take, I had a beautiful ball gown that was all netting. It was creased from when it arrived in the post. So I went round to my mum and dad's and I was like, can you just sort this out for me? So, in the event that I need something ironing or steaming, I can just go home.
So this is my final question on this area and then we'll do the socials. So what is your indication to stop or to slow down? Is there anything, or is it just for you of I've just got to keep going, on to the next thing, on to the next thing? Do you get burnout?
I do. Yeah. So I have...
do you know when you've taken on too much, or do you just take it all on and then see what... Because I can imagine as well that you don't want to let anything slide, everything that you've got on your plate, you don't necessarily want to pass off, you want to complete, maybe?
Yeah. So I have over the last... So I've had MS for 17 years, but I would say over the last few years, I've gotten a lot better at it. So I do try to kind of not take on too much now. Mondays I always do as my admin day, so I'll kind of stay at home, get everything done, so obviously I can have a little bit of a lie-in on a Monday morning. I try not to pack out my week, so that I've got rest breaks in between, because I know that I will be messaging people at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, or 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm doom scrolling through TikTok and go, oh, this would be a great idea for your business. I do try to make sure that I get rest moments wherever I can. You will find me every so often, I will do a nana nap in the car, just pull over somewhere, have a little sleep, 15 minutes, shut my body down, and I call it a reset. So I don't know why it works, but it does. I literally just set a timer on my phone, go to sleep, and because I've switched off, closed my eyes, and stopped all of the stimulus, it's my body just resets. And then when I come back, I feel better. So I do that every so often. And then I do listen to my body. So if it's a case of, obviously when that happened a few weeks ago and my leg just stopped working, I was like, right, I do need to cut down my hours. So I spoke to a few of my clients and were like, do you mind if we, cancel tomorrow and do next week? So I took a couple of days where I just did some Zoom calls. I did a couple of Zoom calls on the Thursday and the Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday, I just slept. But then I feel bad because when I do take that time off, my husband misses out on that time. So then I'm he's getting the worst side of me. And then I've already decided I'm going to take a week off to go see the in-laws down in Devon. Although I say take a week off, I'm going to take my laptop. And I'll just keep checking in. But yeah, I am getting better. I try really hard to sleep where I can. I get an early night, not necessarily sleeping, but resting. So I'll go and lay down. Got one of them projectors from TikTok. So I bought off TikTok shop and I project it onto the ceiling, because then I can just lay down with biscuits and my dog and then just watch rubbish TV on the ceiling. But it's great. The only thing I would not advise though is do not watch My £600 Life, because I did fall asleep, forgot where I was and what I was doing, woke up and there was a ginormous £600 naked man on my ceiling and I thought he was going to land on me and I screamed. So I can't be doing that again. So I've stopped watching that in the bedroom now. Now I just watch, random stuff. We'll watch a bit of Bridgerton. But yeah, if I'm watching My £600 Life, I watch that in the living room now, just so that I don't wake up to it on the ceiling. But yeah, screamed.
Oh my God, what's happening?
I thought it was going to fall on my face. Honestly, it was awful. It was so frightening.
Okay, so We might actually, we're just going to get in time. So, that's all my questions. So I'll give a little bit of space. I normally do this at the end, just for people to talk about anything that they might want to talk about that they haven't talked about. Now would be a great time to bring up the book. So, is there anything else that you want to discuss? Any questions you want to ask me? Any random things you want to rant about? Like, this is your opportunity to just do whatever. Don't have to say anything else if you don't want to. But if there's anything left that you want to say, now is your time.
Well, Simon, I'm going to do a really selfish plug of my book. But you will understand why, because although it sounds like a really selfish plug, it's not. So I have had lots of people that told me I should write a book because my life is hilarious and tragic at the same time.
And inspiring.
I thought my book was really motivational and inspiring, but then people are coming up to me and sending me messages going, I was ugly, snot crying, and I'm like, oh my God, what got you? And then one person sent me a message saying, you made me feel like I had bipolar, because I was like snot crying and laughing in the same paragraph, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. But it's basically, I wrote the book as like a way to be able to reach more people. Because obviously, although, I can stand in the middle of Leeds and you could probably hear me in London, I'm only ever going to be able to reach so many people through social media and through talking to people. With a book, I get to reach maybe a few more people that I wouldn't do ordinarily. And my journey with MS has been 17 years now. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't have any positive influences. So I worked in healthcare recruitment. I was seeing people with very, very progressive and end stages of MS. So I was petrified. I had no idea what my future held for me. I was worried that I was going to be a burden on my family and my friends. I was scared. I was so, so scared. And then I had to kind of find my own motivation and like pick myself up off the floor and go, no, actually, do you know what? I'm going to make this work. But over the years, I've then met lots of other people with MS or with hidden diseases or illnesses or that have gone through tough times, and they find it really hard to kind of pull themselves out of that funk. And I was like, actually, one of the things that I've always been really good at is helping people and motivating them and helping them to kind of change their thoughts or their views.
And showing people a different way. Saying, look, you think this can't be done. Look, I've done it.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing for me was obviously, kind of losing all the feeling in my legs. And that was just like an overnight thing. So I woke up and they just weren't working. My husband laughed at me because I got out of bed and just dropped to the floor. And he was like, what did you trip over? And I was like, I've got no idea. Put my glasses on. I was like, nothing. Then I tried to stand up. And then that's when I realised, they're just not working. They've turned off. And it was 6 months of me using kind of crutches. So I had 2 crutches, 1 crutch, 2 walking sticks, 1 walking stick. And then just forced myself to walk because at the time I was 22.5 stone. They were, saying, well, we'll just put you in a wheelchair. And I was like, if you put me in there, I'll never get out of it. And at the time I was working with a company where my MD was not particularly nice. And I thought, if I end up in a wheelchair, she's going to sack me. I'm literally going to lose my job. And I was petrified. So just bring some crutches, I'll make it happen. And I did. But I think it's not everybody has that. And I think part of it is the, Yorkshire grit. Part of it is because my mum is a 5 foot, stubborn, feisty woman and, she's kind of bred that into us girls. And then, the rest of it is kind of life experiences that, I've kind of had things thrown at me and gone, okay, well, I'll find a way to beat that. But I just thought if I can, as part of my legacy, if I can be that positive role model for somebody that I didn't have when I was first diagnosed, and even if I just affect one person in a positive way, that's kind of my job done. So, and then I didn't realise, I've had so much love for the book of people kind of reading it that don't have MS, that, have just kind of gone through life experiences, and gone, actually, that I really enjoyed your story, didn't realise what you'd gone through, because I do put a brave face on. And to look at me, you wouldn't know, the things that I've gone through. But it's just, I think for me, it's just about, somebody said to me the other day, and I made him cry and I didn't mean to, but I kind of do that a lot, not on purpose, but...
No, I know.
But he'd said to me, what's the aim, what's your life goal, how will you know that you've achieved what you wanted to in life? And it's funny because he's like a big guy, he's like very successful businessman. And I think what he was wanting me to say was, yeah, I want to make millions, I want to be a millionaire, and I want a Jaguar, and I want this and that and the rest of it. And then I kind of took him off guard, or caught him off guard, because I said to him, my aim is that when I die, I want a packed funeral.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I want that room to be heaving with people that I've affected in a positive way.
Yeah.
I want them to be queuing outside on the streets.
Yeah.
You know, and I want everybody to be laughing and telling stories and going, oh, she did this for me, and oh God, do you remember that time when she were an idiot and tried to save that pigeon? I want all of those people to tell those stories and talk to each other about what I did to help them, because that's how I'll know I've left my mark.
Yeah.
And those stories then, and with the book, I want my story out there, because even though I then might not be here, my story still lives on. And that's again another Viking thing of like the stories, you know, that's
there will
how
be
the
songs
legacy...
written about me.
Yeah, I'll be in Valhalla me with my axe. But yeah, that's what I want. That's how I'll know I've made my mark.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not bothered about the money. I'm not bothered about, you know, the kudos. That's just not who I am. Like, I just want to know that I had a massive impact, and that I made some people smile, that I made some people laugh because they were like, God, she's an idiot. You know, or do you remember this time when she did this? Or what? That's all I want, is I just want those stories out there. But I want to know that I had a positive impact on lots and lots of people.
Okay, so it's not going to be lots and lots of people listening to this, but for the few people that are listening to this, how can they get in touch or find out more? What are your socials?
I'm on LinkedIn. I do have a couple of TikTok channels. So I've got Kirsty, the MS Warrior. I then also just have my Kirsty Elton, which is just all videos of my dog. And then I also have my Everwick Consulting. But yeah, mainly I'm on LinkedIn, and I am very, very contactable. So I'm very active on my socials.
Yeah.
And I'm a big cheerleader. So anyone that wants anything sharing, I've got like 10,000 connections. I will push that out to people. Excellent. But yeah, I am not one of those people that if someone comes to me and they want cheerleading, or they want a little bit of motivation, or they just want someone to listen to what they're going through, I am here.
Final question, I promise. Is your leadership style, are you one of those people that like, you're always busy, but then when someone stops you, you've got all the time in the world for that? Are you one of them of like, there is only this person that's in front of me?
100%. Yeah. And there have been times where somebody has come to me and I've had like a tender that needed completing or an audit, and then someone's come to me and gone, this has just happened. And I'm like, no problem.
So how do you do that? Is there a trick to it? Or is it just paying attention to what's in front of you?
No, it's perspective.
Yeah.
Like, what's more important to you? People are everything to me in exactly the same way as, you know, if my best friend phoned me, you know, was like, I need you to drop everything and come, I'm there.
Yeah.
You know, because you can be rich in physical things and material things and money, but without those relationships, you are nothing. You know, and in terms of like work, whenever anyone needed anything, yeah, I'd just drop it. I'd just drop whatever I needed, or I'd say, right, yeah, can we do this time? And then, yeah, they've got my full undivided attention. And I would never, ever say to them, although I'm sure most of them knew, I would never say I'm supposed to be doing a tender or I'm supposed to be doing this. I just work late and get it done.
Yeah.
Because they're more important to me.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter if I have to do an extra couple of hours in the office to make sure I've got that work done, or if I need to do a couple of hours on Saturday to get stuff done because I had to take time out to help somebody else. Yeah. I'm not bothered. You know, I'll still get everything done. It's just...
Well, that's how you captain the ship, isn't it? Because if your crew's out of order, then you're going to have to do their jobs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm like that. I'm like, this is my ship, and I'll go down with it.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we did the socials, didn't we?
Yes.
So I'm going to say thank you very much, Kirsty. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I knew it'd be good. But yeah, thank you. It's been great. So we can turn these off. Just press the little button underneath and hold it. Thank you again to Kirsty for being my guest. Thank you, as always, to all my guests. And thank you to you, Leeds, for being my subject. You can find Kirsty at linkedin.com/in for individual /Kirsty Elton, all one word, and you can find Everwick Consulting at
everwick-consulting.co.uk. Everwick is spelt Everwyk. Links are in the show notes as usual, as is the link to buying Kirsty's book. If you would like to contact me about anything working hours related, then you can email me about the show at workinghourspod, all one word, at western-studios.com. Okay, that's me. Remember, listener, no matter what you do, it's impossible for you to understand anything that your salary depends on you not understanding. So try to work for peace and try to plan with kindness. Raise your voice, but reduce your impact. Cheers, ears. Take care out there and be kind to each other. Leeds. Working Hours is produced, recorded, edited, created and published by Simon Treen for Western Studios Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org. Remember Western Studios Leeds Limited when you're ready to start making your content in West Yorkshire. Follow Western Studios Leeds on Facebook, facebook.com/Western_Studios_Leeds, and on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/Western-Studios. Bookmark western-studios.com so you can see the latest prices and use my contact page to drop me a message about your own podcast project or working hours at any time from anywhere. Maybe you want or need a podcast host, co-host or narrator for your podcast project. Maybe you just need another voice for one or more episodes of your show. Podcasts are so much more than gossip, book promotions and marketing for online courses. Podcasts and other audio content get your online brand out there. Want to make some fundraising case studies? Want to have an audiobook or video course? Want to share your learning, knowledge and expertise in your field? Want to learn, teach or raise awareness of something general or particular? Want to improve internal comms with messages your staff might actually engage with? Or do you just want to brighten up the world with some entertaining content? Then make a podcast. If you're making your podcast within West Yorkshire, then think about making it with western-studios.com. Whatever your podcast questions or needs, get in touch with Western Studios Leeds.